Hi and welcome to a new episode. Today we are taking a look at an item that has been sent to me for free, but it was sent almost 4 years ago. So you heard right, back in 2013 when I was writing articles on youritronics.com, I had a good collaboration with Gabriel, the guy behind gabotronics.com. So he sent me this item, which I believe was a Kickstarter back then. I think I was moving at that time, so I received the item but never got a chance to take a look at it. It was stored in some box and forgotten. So I'm sorry, Gabriel, I never reviewed the item you sent me. But I just found it now, 4 years later. I think it's an interesting piece of kit even 4 years later. So we're going to take a quick look. It's not going to be a full review of its specs. I don't have, for example, a signal generator to make some tests on this device, on its analog bandwidth, for example. It will just be an overview of the device features presented as advertised. So to start with, you get this nice hard shell protective case, which is labeled with their logo. And inside, let's open this. We get the Xprotolab portable plus a bunch of accessories. So let's see, let's start with these. We get some clips, what looks like it looks like they're designed for the logic analyzer. We get a bunch of these probes that have grabbing hooks and 3.5mm jacks on the other end. So we get 4 of these. Is this a 4-channel oscilloscope? I'm not sure. We will check on that. And we also get a couple of these adapters. So they're 3.5mm on one end and BNC on the other end. So I think these are designed to allow you to use a standard oscilloscope BNC probe. We get a micro USB cable. And in here, I think we get another adapter. Yeah, so this one is a smaller adapter, also BNC to 3.5mm jack. As you can see, the actual Xprotolab portable is still sealed in its anti-static bag, so let's open it. So here is how it looks like. Quite a compact little unit. It's made of plastic, the enclosure, and you've probably guessed it, it's a portable oscilloscope complete with its small OLED display and battery inside the enclosure. Let's take a quick look at the specs of this unit. So I got this comparison sheet from their user manual. We got the Xprotolab portable. So this thing is basically 3 instruments in one. It's a logic analyzer, oscilloscope and arbitrary waveform generator as well. And let's not forget, it also comes with a multi-platform PC software that allows you to control and visualize the instrument data. So we got the 1.3-inch OLED display. It's got a lithium-ion 600 mAh battery. We got 8 digital inputs for the logic analyzer, and these are 5 volts tolerant. It's got a 2 meg sample per second sampling rate for the logic analyzer. It also has a frequency counter which can go up to 16 megahertz with 1 hertz resolution. It can decode some protocols like UART, I2C and SPI buses. On the oscilloscope side, we have 2 analog inputs with a maximum sample rate of 2 meg samples per second, 200 kilohertz analog bandwidth, 8 bits ADC. The input voltage range goes from minus 14 volts up to plus 20 volts. So that will cover a good majority of hobby projects. The arbitrary waveform generator has 1 analog output and it can swing plus or minus 4 volts up to 53 kilohertz. So we could say it's feature packed considering its small size and the fact that it runs on a Xmega32 microcontroller. Imagine the capability this thing would have if it would use like an STM32 Cortex-M4 that runs at 200 MHz. I think these are still available for purchase. I checked the website and the product is still available, but out of stock currently. At least this portable version complete with enclosure. The price is $98 for a unit like this one, but it does not include all the accessories you saw earlier, just a couple of cables. So let's turn it on and see if it still has a charge after 4 years of storage. Let's see, where do we have the on-off button? So it might be a soft on-off. Yep, so it's the menu button for turning it on. We don't get a battery indicator. I would have loved to check the battery. So let's check the menu. I'm really curious to see what kind of battery it has left in. Yeah, it doesn't show battery level. Anyway, maybe there is a way to check the battery, but I'll have to read the manual. So I must say, after removing the protective screen on the OLED, it looks really nice. And this refreshing, you see, it's just the iPhone camera that's picking that up. You can't see that with the naked eye. I could certainly imagine a few situations where this would be helpful, with the constraint of its 200 kHz analog bandwidth, of course. For example, if you're working on some project away from your lab, maybe at a friend's house or at a hackerspace, it's nice to have something like this, your own little tool for debugging. I'm wondering what kind of battery life we would get out of this. Let's check the spec sheet. So with a 600 milliamp hour battery and an active current that goes from 40 up to 60 milliamps, let's take the worst case scenario, maximum consumption at 60 milliamps, we would get 10 hours of usage out of this device, which is plenty in my opinion. Not to mention you could charge it with a simple USB power bank and extend that to endless hours of usage in the field. Let's take a look at a scenario where you might be using this oscilloscope. Let's say we want to be measuring a signal. We don't know its frequency, we don't know if it's present, and for that we're going to be using channel 1 and this adapter to connect a normal oscilloscope probe. So I'm connecting the adapter to channel 1. Let's turn on channel 1. Okay. Now let's connect the oscilloscope probe. It's connected. And I have prepared this small signal generator. It might be producing a 60 kHz signal, I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the unit that this display is showing. Now let's try to configure this. Okay, so our signal is already shown. We have 2.56 volts per division, but I'm not clearly seeing the divisions. Let's go into meter and see if we can measure the frequency. Yeah, we have here frequency measurement. So what is it showing us on channel 1? 1 kilohertz. Now we want vertical cursors for this to be able to see the frequency. So as you can see, this is where we hit the limitations of this small OLED display, because we're not really capable of showing that much info on the small display. Yeah, so I'm measuring 1 kilohertz as well right here. So could this signal be 1 kilohertz? Yep, it might. Let's check that with a multimeter. Let's see, can the Fluke measure frequency? I've never used it for this purpose, but I think it can do it. Yep, so we are at 1 kilohertz. So it was indeed showing the right measurement when we went into the meter menu. So let's turn off this cursor. Let's go back to the meter menu. Frequency, so yeah, this is where we saw the 1 kilohertz value on channel 1. So it is indeed measuring correctly. Let's switch to channel 2. Yep, so it's now measuring on channel 2. So yeah, it's correctly measuring the frequency, and the we also used those markers to measure it on the screen, and it was okay. Let's go back to oscilloscope mode. Right, and believe we can control the horizontal like this, and for controlling the vertical we need to go into channel 1 menu, and here we can control the gain. Yeah, but it's going off screen. So as you noticed, without any prior preparation, I haven't read the manual. It was quite easy to figure out the menu and how to set up the oscilloscope for a simple measurement. Now let's also take a look at the arbitrary waveform generator, but this time we'll be using the Xprotolab itself as well as the Rigol to take a look at the signal. So I wanted to do the setup of the arbitrary waveform generator on camera, but I just connected channel 1 to the arbitrary waveform generator output, and I'm already seeing a sine wave, so it must have been turned on. So let's try some settings here. We have wave type, we have sine, square, triangle. Let's leave it on a sine waveform. Yeah, we can also add noise or custom. Anyway, let's leave it like that, and let's try channel 1. We need to lower the gain like that, and to adjust the position to move the waveform. Okay, so now we are seeing the signal on the screen. Let's also connect the Rigol and see what it thinks about this signal. And let's set up the Rigol. Yep, and we're seeing a nice sine wave. The Rigol is currently saying 440 Hertz. Let's try to increase the frequency from the AWG menu. Frequency. Yeah, so it's 440.1. Exactly the same as the Rigol is measuring. Let's go up in frequency. Okay, so we can see the frequency increasing on the Xprotolab and on the Rigol as well. So we are now in the kilohertz range. Let's adjust our horizontal. It will start to alias pretty soon on the Xprotolab. That is to be expected. Yep, so it's now aliasing. We are now at 5 kilohertz. I will adjust the horizontal as soon as I'm done finishing adjusting the frequency. So I was able to go up to 78 kilohertz on the AWG, even though on the datasheet it's specified with a low pass filter at 53 kilohertz. And as you can see, the waveform is not that bad. It still looks like a sine wave on the Rigol. Yeah, so we are 78.43 kilohertz, 78.429 on the Rigol. Let's also check the amplitude setting of the AWG. We are at 4 volts peak to peak. Yep, and that's about right because I'm 200 millivolts per division on the Rigol. Let's try to increase that. Let's see what we can get. So no, that's the maximum, 4 volts peak to peak according to the datasheet of the Xprotolab. But we can lower it if we wish. Let's go 2 volts peak to peak. Is this a bug, or it will not decrease the value if I keep the button pressed? So I need to go in those small increments. That must be a firmware bug, but as you can imagine, this thing is like 40 years old firmware, so I probably need to update the firmware in this thing, and that problem will probably be fixed. Now, for an AWG to be useful to me, I need to have at least 1 megahertz of bandwidth. 50 kilohertz, it's just not enough, but I understand in the case of this unit it's just a bonus feature and it's limited by the hardware. However, up to 50 kilohertz, as you saw, it is a capable unit. You get a clean signal. I am now at 20 kilohertz. So let's check the other wave types that we get in the menu. Let's check square. That's a square wave. Let's check triangle. Yep, and we can kind of see these steps in the wave, but those are not 8-bit steps, so I'm not sure what's happening here. We also have an exponential. We have noise. Yeah, we can see the Xprotolab is having trouble triggering on that noise. It's probably the trigger level or maybe something else. And we also have custom waveforms that I think you can load through the software. Let's leave it on that noise generation and see if we can trigger off that. Yeah, it stabilized. It was probably just the trigger level. So that's quite interesting because it's adding those. It's kind of generating something random, I suppose. So each time I'm switching on the noise generator, it's got a different waveform. I know some of you would probably like to take a look inside, so let's do that. It looks like we only have these 4 Phillips screws. These look like self-tappers, but that's fine for a device that you shouldn't take apart. At least there shouldn't be any reasons to take it apart. Oh, and by the way, in the user manual of this you get full block diagrams as well as schematics, so that's very nice. So we get a green PCB. Let's see how the OLED is soldered. So soldering on the OLED looks really nice. Well, all of the board looks really nicely soldered. It looks like they have a small double-sided pad in here, but it's not peeled, so the OLED is not actually glued in. But I didn't see any problem with that. But there is something else rattling inside, and it wasn't the LCD. Maybe it's the battery. So let's check on the other side. We need to remove these 2 screws, these 4 screws, I think, to be able to remove the PCB. Yep, so it's the battery that's rattling in here. But also we see a small double-sided pad, and they could have used that to, or maybe a thinner one, just to glue it in place. Let's check the battery. So it's a 600 milliamp hour battery, exactly as described in the datasheet of this oscilloscope. So we have the 4 input 3.5mm jacks. This is the X Mega. It looks like they've used 0603 passives in this PCB assembly. What is this guy right here? It's a 74 LVC 245. So I think this is just a buffer for the logic analyzer. And right here, this guy, it's a TL064. This is probably a quad op amp from Texas Instruments. Underneath the OLED there isn't much, and we got the switches on this side. So as you probably noticed, there isn't much inside this portable oscilloscope. Just these 3 chips are doing all the hard work. So I really like the construction, nice quality soldering. Nothing bad to say about the assembly or the soldering of this PCB module. It looks like it was done with care for quality. I think this is quite a capable little unit, packed with features, but if it's any good for you depends on what your needs are. Let's not forget it only has 200 kHz analog bandwidth and 2 megasamples per second sampling rate. Are your signals under these specs and you need a portable unit for debug? Then this might be what you need. I think the price is also an important factor here. Would I pay $100 for a unit like this? Probably not, because I sometimes find myself needing a higher bandwidth and higher sampling rate, and I don't do a lot of work remotely. So a battery operated device is not something I need often and not something I would invest in. But still, I appreciate the amount of features packed in this unit and the hard work that has been put into development. So for that, I think it's worth every cent. I haven't even showed the PC software or the logic analyzer function, but that will be all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below, and I will see you next time.